Hey guys, welcome to this episode of The Search. Today we are on the hunt for the elusive Mothman of Point Pleasant, West Virginia. On November 12, 1966, 5 men were digging a grave at a cemetery near Clendenin, West Virginia, when a man-like creature flew from the nearby trees toward them. The men claimed the creature flew low and swooped over their heads. 3 days later, 2 young couples from Point Pleasant, West Virginia, were riding through the local hangout spot, commonly known as the TNT area by the locals. As the 2 couples drove over a hill in this TNT area, the car's headlights lit up something they had never seen before. The 2 couples told police they saw a large flying man that stood 7 or 8 feet high and had a wingspan of around 10 feet. The 2 young couples were Roger and Linda Scarberry and Steve and Mary Millette. All 4 of them told one detail about the creature that would be reported by all who reported seeing the creature after that cold November night in 1966. They told the police of 2 large glowing red eyes that would haunt the witnesses of the creature for the remainder of their lives. During the week after the sightings in the TNT area, and after the story was published in the local paper, many people in Point Pleasant began to report seeing the creature. 2 volunteer firemen reported they saw the creature, and as they put it, it was a large bird with red eyes. A local contractor in the area told the sheriff the creature was in a field next to his home, and when he pointed his flashlight at the creature, its eyes lit up like bicycle reflectors. The contractor also stated the creature caused his television to buzz strangely and that his German shepherd disappeared after chasing after the creature. The reported sightings of the creature between November 1966 and December 1967 numbered to be at least 100 reports in that single year. On top of the cryptid creature sightings in that year, many residents of Point Pleasant were reporting lights over the TNT area and other strange phenomena, such as witch covens and certain specters or demons seen in the area. In fact, while we were investigating in Point Pleasant, more than one local resident reported to us that they themselves have seen witch covens doing rituals and what they called hellhounds in the TNT area. There were also many reports of aliens and the men in black in the area. It was a mysterious time in Point Pleasant back in '66 and '67. It turned from mystery to tragedy, though, on December 15, 1967, when the Silver Bridge collapsed, killing 46 people. It was the holiday season, and the bridge was full of traffic, and people in the area still remember the sight of floating Christmas presents. After the bridge collapsed, the sightings of the creature and the other phenomena suddenly stopped. There are still strange things reported in the area from time to time. After our investigation, it would seem that some in the area of Point Pleasant do believe in the creature that was originally titled the Big Bird before Mothman, and some in the area of Point Pleasant don't think much of the mystery. The evidence could go both ways. The strongest evidence into the Mothman mystery are eyewitness accounts. But as everyone knows, eyewitness accounts can show to be the weakest form of evidence as well. The people of Point Pleasant are some of the nicest people you can meet and have no problem answering questions about the Mothman. Many of the residents would tell me about strange sightings they have seen, especially around the TNT area. But just as many would tell stories about how they would go around town with kites and flashlights to spook people just for the fun of it. Because of this variety of eyewitness accounts, it may be best to look at the original report. The second sighting of the creature, as reported by the 2 young couples in 1966. To keep this video from being too long, I'll focus on the report by Linda Scarberry. Linda Scarberry reported that they were riding through the TNT area on a side road by the old powerhouse building around midnight on Tuesday night, November 15, 1966. They came over a small rise in the road. All at once, someone in the car yelled for them to look at this thing in the road. She says she looked up and saw it go around the corner at the old powerhouse. It didn't run but wobbled, like it couldn't keep its balance. Its wings were spread just a little. We sat there a few seconds, and then she started yelling for the driver to hurry. He took off and they didn't even stop for curves. We got out on Route 62 and was coming down the road, and there it was again sitting on the road on the second hill when you come into the first part of the bad curves. As soon as their lights hit it, it took off. Linda says it spread its wings a little and then went straight up into the air. We got to the armory and we were driving our car going between 100 and 105 miles per hour down that straight stretch, and that thing was just gliding back and forth over the back end of the car. As we got there, in front of the lights by the resort, it dived at our car and went away. I could hear the wings flapping as it was trying to get more speed. We were all terrified and kept yelling for the driver to go faster. As we came into that straight stretch by C.C. Lewis's farm, the thing was over our car again. Then it disappeared. We went on downtown and stopped by the Dairyland and tried to decide what to do. We just sat there and looked at each other. I wanted to go to the police, but everyone kept saying they'd just laugh at us. We talked about it a while. Then we wanted to go back up the road. I kept trying to talk them out of it, and finally when we got to C.C. Lewis's gate, they decided they didn't want to go back up, so we just turned around. When we turned around, we saw a big dead dog laying along the road. When we were almost turned around, this thing jumped out from behind something and leapt over our car, and then went through the field on the other side. We decided to go to the police then, and went down around Tawny's drive-in, looking for them. After the police came, we went back up the road in our car. I saw it in a pasture field with its wings out a little, walking towards the car, and then it went up in the air and came at the car. It disappeared. We went up and down the road looking for it, but didn't see it. Linda's report continues as she went home. Said she saw it a couple more times, and it scared her so much she couldn't go to sleep. Said she had to start taking sleeping pills and things to sleep. She would see it outside of her window at home. And it says she remembers going by the powerhouse building, and on the way home all she saw was its eyes back in some trees in the road as the car went past and looked back, and all she could see was its form. That was the last time she had seen it. Said, to me it looked like a man with wings. It just has a body-shaped form with wings on its back that came around it, and it has muscular legs like a man and fiery red eyes that glow when the lights hit it. There was no glowing about it. The lights hit it and it glowed. I couldn't see its head or arms. I don't know if the eyes were even in a head. When they got to the powerhouses, the eyewitnesses said that they saw footprints that looked like two horseshoes put together, but they were smooth. I know people are laughing at us, but it's no laughing matter. We'll never forget this thing. It has affected our lives in many ways. When it gets dark, I feel fear creeping over me. When I go any place, I automatically look up and out of the windows. I'm afraid to sleep at night, so I lay awake, sometimes crying with fear. When I do go to sleep, or go to bed, the lights burn all night. Even in the daylight, I'm afraid to be by myself. People have said we were probably liquored up, but we were not. They go up there expecting to see it, but then they say they don't believe us. We just can't go up there and hand it to people on a silver platter like they seem to want us to. We're never really going to get over our fear until we find out what this thing is. I know I'll never forget it. I don't think anyone who has seen it can. This report was handwritten for police by Linda 2 days after the first TNT area sighting. But like I stated earlier, eyewitness accounts are a strange thing to use as evidence. Linda was interviewed for the book Mothman, The Facts Behind the Legend by Donnie Sergent Jr. and the owner of the Mothman Museum, Jeff Wamsley. This interview took place on July 11, 2001, and points to a different picture of the Mothman. Donnie Sergent. A lot of national paranormal investigators, as well as other people, are curious to know what the atmosphere was like on that eerie night in the TNT area. Would you describe the time, date, and the general weather on the evening when you first sighted the Mothman? Linda. It was cold and around 11:30 p.m., November 15, 1966. Both couples in the car that night were married. We were just out chasing Parkers. It wasn't raining or foggy at all. It was a very clear and cold night. Donnie Sergent. This creature has been described by many people. There have been many different reports of what the Mothman looks like. Would you describe in detail what it looked like? Its head, body, wings, etc.? Linda. It was about 7 feet tall. It had wings that were visible on its back. The tips of the wings could be seen above its shoulders. The body of it was like a slender, muscular man. It was flesh-colored. Its wings were ashen white in color. The wings looked like angel wings. Its face couldn't be seen because the eyes simply hypnotized you when you looked into them. You didn't have to look directly into them. If you looked close to its face, your eyes were just drawn to its eyes. It wasn't that it didn't have a head. It was just that when your eyes got close to its head and neck area, the eyes consumed your vision, and you couldn't see anything but them. It had arms and legs like a muscular man. When we first saw it, we had just topped a hill in the TNT area, and when the headlights of our car hit it, it looked directly at us, as if it was scared. It had one of its wings caught in a guide wire near a section of road close to the power plant, and was pulling on its wing with its hands, trying to free itself. Its hands were really big. It was really scared. We stopped the car and sat still while it was trying to free itself from the wire. We didn't sit there long, just long enough to scare it, I think. It seemed to think we were going to hurt it. We were all screaming, "Go, go, go," but we couldn't perform the actual action of leaving the scene. It was like we were hypnotized. It finally got its wing loose from the wire and ran into the power plant. I felt sorry for it. We talked about it with Mr. Kill and Mr. Dresden. We thought it might have been some sort of machine or something, possibly being controlled by the UFOs or whatever was with them. But it was too much like an animal for that. Its movements were too smooth. It wasn't a machine. Donnie Sergent: how long after you initially sighted the creature did you go to the police? And what was their initial reaction to your report? Linda: we went to the police about a half hour after we initially sighting it. They didn't believe us at first. They thought we were crazy or on drugs. A lot of other people did too. But after they saw how scared we were and found out that we weren't drinking or on drugs, they started to believe us. We wouldn't have went to the police, but it kept following us. We saw it sitting on different places as we drove back down Route 62 toward Point Pleasant, and saw it sitting on various places once we got into town too. It was as if it was letting us know that it could catch up to us no matter where we went or how fast we went there. Guys, we're here with Mr. Jeff Wamsley. He rewrote the book, The Mothman, The Truth Behind the Legend. And if you are looking for information on the Mothman, it's a great book. It does have good information, just facts about the Mothman. It doesn't try to push you either way. I'm here just to ask a couple questions for Mr. Jeff here that I don't think he's been asked yet. Okay. Jeff, first question is, have you ever dressed up in the Mothman costume in here and run around town?
No, I usually hire somebody to do that.
You do?
Yeah.
I imagine during the festival that probably does.
Yeah. I have a nephew who's always willing to do that.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Well, have you yourself, now I've seen in some of the interviews, you actually haven't seen the Mothman, I believe, but have you seen strange events in the TNT area yourself?
You know, really I have not. I mean, you know, I was 5 years old when all this happened, but I've talked to a lot of people who have, you know, a lot of the witnesses, the eyewitnesses, and people like that. But, you know, personally, I've never really had anything that I've seen that, you know, seemed to be out of the ordinary or anything like that. But again, you know, those original witnesses that I grew up almost beside of there in our neighborhood, you know, I talked to them and stuff.
In your book, as I stated, it does have just facts on information. And in that book, you do have actually the old interview with the police Linda Scarberry did back in '66. And then there's a new interview in 2002 for the book.
Right.
And there are some discrepancies in that, in the interviews. I'm sure you noticed that. And, I was just wondering what your thoughts were on those discrepancies. They seem pretty distinct.
Yeah, you know, over the years, you know, I think people's memories get a little clouded, you know. I didn't do the interview with her. Donnie Sergent did the interview with her, so I wasn't there. All I know is personally, the questions that I asked her 10, 15 years ago up until when she passed away, the answers were always the same. As a matter of fact, I intentionally tried to trick her into telling me something different, and she never did. So that told me that, you know, she pretty much stuck to her original stories. I think some of the fine details and stuff, you know, back in '66, you know, 45 years later, may have been lost in the shuffle a little bit. Yeah.
Well, Jeff, appreciate your time. I do have one more question for you. I didn't have this question until we came up here. We did go visit the TNT area.
Okay.
We've asked people in town things. And it seems like there's some strange things going on there now, such as some people living in the igloos.
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard about that?
Yeah, I think that's been going on for a long time.
It
just must be, you know, some homeless people up there or something. You know. I know kids get in there and kind of play around, run around and stuff like that. That's been going on ever since those were built. You know, so. But I know that there's several open igloos up there, and I'm sure that there's people in there. from time to time.
Well, Jeff, I really appreciate your time.
Okay.
Fantastic.
All right. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
And if you guys are ever up in West Virginia and you want to learn about the Mothman, this is the place to come. It's the world's only Mothman Museum, and definitely has most of the information on it.
Come in anytime.
There have been biologists and professors from universities look into the Mothman case who have come to the conclusion that a large bird of some kind may have traveled out of its normal habitat range during the '66 winter season. Was there a large birdman creature living in the TNT area? Well, one thing we haven't talked about yet is what is this TNT area? What the locals call the TNT area is now known as the Mcclintock Wildlife Area. Guys, I will say, if you ever get a chance to go up to Point Pleasant and you're searching for the Mothman, you go into the TNT area, one thing I want to tell you, it's a pretty spooky place. There's a lot of dangers up there. A lot of the locals told us about a lot of the dangers up there. Apparently there's a lot of people using drugs and actually living in these igloos. So if you do go up there to search and to hunt around, definitely take some protection with you, take some people with you, and be safe while you're doing it. In fact, how we were able to navigate the TNT area was by the help of an elderly couple we met after finding this strange area full of extremely large lotus plants deep in the TNT area. They told us about concrete igloos and how the government built them during World War II, using them to store explosives in during the war. The nice elderly couple made it pretty clear that they believed the two young couples that first saw the Mothman in the TNT area were high on drugs. Apparently back in '66, the TNT area was the place to go party for the young crowd. The elderly couple led us to the igloos and warned us to be careful. As they put it, there were druggies living in the igloos, and it isn't the safest place to be. They didn't stick around after showing us how to find the igloos either. The government built the igloos to store explosives they were manufacturing in the TNT area. Each igloo is a large domed concrete bunker, hollow inside with large metal doors. Built this way in case the explosives went off, the bunker would contain the blast. Grass was grown on top of the bunkers to mask them from aircraft if enemy bombers made it to the mainland America during the war. In the modern day, the area has grown almost unkept, and it is hard to see the bunkers, or igloos as the locals call them. The place is creepy even in the daylight hours. I can only imagine how it would be at night. The locals do Halloween hay rides through the area during All Hallows Eve and have a Mothman festival every year in September. This small town of around 4,000 swells to over 25,000 as people from all over the world come to Point Pleasant. The creation of all these explosives polluted the area. Locals reported to us that there are still to this day men in hazmat suits going out to the TNT area and seemingly testing the area. Some theorize that the Mothman could have been a mutant from all of the chemicals. Definitely a mysterious place. It seems with the onslaught of sightings happening within days of each other back in 1966 that something was living in the TNT area of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, at least for a time. In the initial report by Linda Scarberry and her friends in '66, the creature they saw looked spooked, as if it froze in the car headlights, the bright light reflecting back red from the creature's nocturnal eyes. The creature eventually shook off its surprise and waddled away, using its wings for balance as it walked. The young couples described the big bird as large and gray. The initial drawing provided to police is another piece to the puzzle, drawn a mere 2 days after the first sighting. There is one creature that fits every facet of this initial description and drawing: the great gray owl of North America, specifically the larger female of the species. Linda made sure to point out how cold it was in '66, possibly cold enough to allow a female to move south of her normal habitat that year. The main reason this species would travel south is overpopulation and less food in her normal habitat, and it just so happens there was a great gray owl population spike in the winter of '66. No internet in '66, the people of Point Pleasant would have never seen this species of owl before. This is just a hypothesis, of course. We may never know for sure the full truth of this cryptid, this Mothman. It is important to point out that Linda and her friends all gave very similar reports to the police back in '66. And the great gray owl definitely wouldn't fly straight up in the air or fly at speeds over 100 miles an hour. It is very strange, their initial report, and it's strange the report of many eyewitnesses that claim to have seen the Mothman as well. Was it a mutant in the area? Was it some sort of alien working with the men in black or with the government? The truth really will never be known. Most likely it was a creature. Maybe it did spook them and then imagination took over. We'll just never know. The Mothman will remain a mystery. Okay guys, I want to thank you very much for joining us again for another episode of The Surge. We do definitely appreciate you watching. And if you like the video, just go ahead and hit the subscribe and the like button down at the bottom. I do want to throw a shout out to the Mothman Museum up in West Virginia. Definitely a good place to visit if you're hunting the Mothman. There's also a winery up there called OSR, Our Sibling Revelry Winery, that makes, guys, some of the best wine you have ever tasted. So definitely visit those places. There's shops all up and down. There's also some history to visit. It's just a good place to visit. So if you're ever searching for the Mothman, you want to go up and do your own research, definitely hit those places up. Other than that, guys, hit the like and subscribe if you liked it, and we will see you next time.